Welcome to the Crowds Line College Football Show.
Welcome to Week 12 of the Crowds Line College Football Show with Lou Holtz and Mark May. I'm Kevin Trimble, your moderator, and we changed our playbook a little bit. We're live from Palm Springs, California right now. And before we go into Week 12, let's take a quick look back at Week 11. We had some top 10, stayed the same in the college football poll of Week 11. But what we did see was some conference races that are starting to heat up, namely the AAC, the Big 12, Pac-12, and a lot of those things are going to be decided this week in Week 12. But let's first talk about our Week 11 college football show. Gentlemen, our first game, Clemson-Boston College. Clemson 27-7. Boston College quarterback Anthony Brown went out pretty much in the first series, and then it was, they had to, pick up the tempo a little bit for Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers, but 27-7, they took care of business. They're coasting right now in the ACC. Mark.
This game in the first quarter was very competitive. It was only 10-7 in this first quarter. In Boston College, they thought they were in it. The weather was played in their factor. It was rainy, it was windy, it was cold. Game day was there. They're all excited about the football game. But then the Clemson defense with Brett Venables, they took control from the second quarter on, Coach. They shut them out. And I think the key was A.J. Dillon, 39 yards on 16 carries. But their net rushing offense, 16 rushing yards. That's awesome by their defense.
I was going to say, you watched a different game than me. This game was over. The only time that Boston College did anything on offense, they ran a punt back for a touchdown. Other than that, they had less than 100 yards total offense. The thing that impressed me most about Clemson, very methodical, nothing emotional. However, congratulations to Clemson.
Well, congratulations are going to be in order, are they, for that Ruffin McNeil defense that at least won the game. Down in Norman, Oklahoma, the Oklahoma State Cowboys went in there, missed the extra point, went for two, didn't get it. It was 48-47. Oklahoma sneaked another one out. They're still in it for the Big 12, and some people think for the college football playoffs. Mark, what are your thoughts about the mullet going for two down there in Stillwater? But is Oklahoma, can they really compete for that playoff with that defense?
I think they can because their offense is so spectacular. They can score on any defense in the country. And Kyler Murray, their quarterback, has been spectacular all season long. This game threw for over 300 yards again, another touchdown, ran one. But if you look at both these teams, offense was the key in this game. Over 1,300 total yards offense in this game. But Oklahoma found a way to get it done at the end of the game and pull out a victory.
But Oklahoma State lost to Kansas State earlier in the year. They aren't that great an offense football team. They put on a tremendous show. I do not believe that you would invite a team like Oklahoma that's so porous on defense. I know they have talent, do not play well. I agree with you, Mark, offensively. They're absolutely outstanding. I think Murray's having a great year. They're offensive. They're a complete offensive football team. If they could take Michigan's defense and put it with their offense, they would be able to play with Alabama.
Yeah, but everybody thought that about this Oklahoma team last year in the playoff when they played Georgia. Look what happened. Took them right down to the wire, and they put points on one of the best defenses in the country. That's why I think this offense can play with anyone.
But the last 2 years, they've lost 3 or 4 football games. The minimum they scored has been 45 points in their loss. You can't put that type of team in the playoff.
Well, gentlemen, as we know, in the Big 12, defense optional. But in the Big 10, Michigan State, one of the best defenses in the country, is running defense. But Ohio State came in there to East Lansing, 26-6. Dwayne Haskins, they took care of business. They moved the ball. And let's just say it, Michigan State, great defense. They have zero offense.
Not only that, they used 2 quarterbacks in this game. But the key to this game, if you go to the third quarter, and late in the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, this was a winnable football game for Michigan State. They imploded on special teams. They imploded on offense. And I don't know why they gave them a safety when it was a close game like that at the end of the game, and then they fumbled the ball in the end zone. Those stupid mistakes that were made on offense and special teams, those were coaching decisions by Mark D'Antonio. He didn't have to take that safety. That was ridiculous. They should have punted as well as their defense was playing in this game, punt the ball away and make them earn it.
I agree with you, but I thought Ohio State was very methodical. There's something about Ohio State right now that just doesn't dwell. I mean, there isn't the chemistry, the consistency in running the football, although Weber did run for over 100 yards against a good Michigan State team, but it was just a win by Ohio State. Now they got to get by Maryland, and then they entertain Michigan, and boy, they better be at their best then.
Well, they better be at their best then, and stay off Twitter, stay off the internet, don't read anything, focus on football. Because Notre Dame's focusing on football, and we said, okay, no Ian Book, He had an internal injury. We're going to hold him out before he goes to Yankee Stadium. But the Seminoles went into South Bend and 42-13, and it was the Brandon Wimbush offense. How about that, Mark May? 3 touchdown passes. There was no Ian Book. Dexter Williams, obviously, who wasn't there earlier in the year, 200 yards rushing. Syracuse is up next, but what do you think about the Irish against these Seminoles that aren't the Seminoles of old?
Well, the way that the Irish run the football, they can run the football on anybody. They're big and physical up on the offensive line. I think the key in this game was their offensive line and their defense. You can't go to the quarterback position because they couldn't throw the ball vertically well enough in this game. And you talked about the 3 touchdowns by Wimbush. He threw 2 interceptions in this game. So if you go on the road against Syracuse and you play in Yankee Stadium this weekend and you throw interceptions, if you're the quarterback, that's going to be a problem for this team. And that's the only reason why Florida State was even remotely close, because they turned the ball over.
I want to tell you, if Florida State is really embarrassing themselves, they're going to have to beat BC and Florida in order to be able to be bowl eligible, and I don't think they can do it. They went up there, great game. Everybody talking about the 93 Notre Dame-Florida State game. I expected it to be a better game than what it was, but Notre Dame is a complete football team. Let's give Notre Dame credit. They have an outstanding defense, 8 starters back, one of the best in the country. They have a great offensive line, they have a great quarterback, whether it be Book or whether it be Wimbush, although Booker is going to come back and start again. And they can run the football, and they have great receivers, particularly Boykin. So Notre Dame, even though they haven't been tested, they haven't played anybody really good with the exception of Michigan. However, they performed like a great team should against inferior personnel.
They haven't been tested. The team that took them down to the wire 19-14 about a month ago, you were quaking in your boots? My Pittsburgh Panthers?
Hey.
Okay.
Well, we're going to see. Hey, they're good. They have another ACC team this week in a baseball stadium, and we're going to see where that's going to go. But in that Week 11 college football show contest, Coach, you picked 4 winners. Mark, you picked 3 winners. Picked Mississippi State, so Michigan State, so maybe not so much. But let's talk about our Week 11 Rapid 5 contest. And we started off, Mississippi State went out down to Tuscaloosa. So what, 24-0, they lost. And maybe they get like a big participation trophy because they're one of the few teams that held Alabama under 50. You know, what's the, want to beat Mississippi State, tackle Nick Fitzgerald, and just play good defense, everything takes care of itself. Mark, what do you think of it? Did that show us anything about either team?
Not really. It showed us that Alabama can be dominant when they have to defensively. That's 2 consecutive weeks in a row that they shut out their opponent. I thought that was key. I think if you look at Tua Tagovailoa in this game, he was limping around in this game. That's my concern about keeping their quarterbacks healthy. Jalen Hurts didn't even play in this game because of injuries. My concern about Alabama is not their defense right now, because their defense is starting to rise to one of the best defenses in the country. The key is their offense. Can they keep Tua upright and healthy? Even though it's a Citadel coming up in the next game, I don't think they should play him for more than a quarter.
Oh, I tell you, I'm not worried about them on offense, too. It's outstanding. They have great receivers. Harris, the outstanding running back. But first time, you mentioned 2 shutouts in a row against ranked teams. They've never done that before against ranked teams. LSU and Mississippi State. I thought Mississippi State played a very good defense football team. Dave, they're a good defense football team, but offensively, they couldn't do it with just one man. And anytime you have a Nick Saban football team, you're going to have outstanding defense.
Well, our next game is going to need a doctor because they didn't have outstanding defense or offense. The Kentucky Wildcats coming off that heartbreaker defeat against Georgia, the highest rank they've been in years since 1950, since Bear Bryant. They go down to Knoxville and Rocky Top, and it's the woodshed, 24-7. Defense let them down, offense let them down, and Jeremy Pruitt has got a little mojo going down in Knoxville. Mark, what do you see about this game?
I thought that their run offense was spectacular in this game. This is twice in a row that the run defense for Kentucky gave up 300 yards on the ground. That was the key of the game, 388 yards for Tennessee. And you're right about Jeremy Pruitt. This team can be bowl eligible another win or so. And not only that, the way that they started this year, they got clobbered in their opening game. They came back and they fought well. They're starting to get it together. But in this game against Kentucky, because Kentucky was riding so high until that Georgia game, Georgia beat them twice. They not only beat them when they played them, they beat them in this game because they physically ran the ball down the defense's throat. They were embarrassed in that game. They were embarrassed again in this game against Tennessee.
I agree with you completely, but Tennessee has been getting better and better. You can't evaluate Tennessee because they got blown up by Alabama because everybody else had. However, they almost beat South Carolina at South Carolina. And Kentucky doesn't play quite as well on the road. I think at Tennessee, it was a very methodical victory. There wasn't any fluky about it. It wasn't that they got turnovers. It wasn't they got bad calls. They were just a better football team, and I know that's hard for Kentucky to accept right now. You have to be the best team in the stadium each and every week, and you can't worry about what happened last week, as Mark said.
Well, let's see if old Mark Stoops keep coaching them up. But Auburn, Georgia, we see who was the best team, because the Georgia Bulldogs have something that they had last year. They got a 1-2 punch in the backfield. DeAndre Swift, he is healthy, and he is making gains. And then you've got the real deal, Elijah Holyfield, who's back there with them. Somewhat close in the first half, but they put 2 touchdowns on the board in the last, couple minutes of the second quarter. But here's the question I have. You've got Auburn, who's got an offensive coach, offensive genius, Gus Malzahn. The weak point of Auburn is their offense. Mark, what do you think about that?
Well, they can't score points. That's their problem. With Gus Malzahn, he's got to have a rushing attack for this offense to work, and they just haven't had that this year. When they've had a rushing attack in the past, his offense has worked. Against Georgia, they didn't have that. And Georgia, again, 2 consecutive weeks over 300 yards on the ground. You mentioned the 2 running backs. But how about this? Their offensive line's getting better because you've got a lot of young players up front. They're getting more mature as the season goes on, and I think that's going to benefit them down the road.
Georgia is playing very, very well right now. They better be careful with Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech is playing well. Let's talk about Auburn. Gus Malzahn, when he was the offensive coordinator at Auburn, he goes all the way back. He was a high school coach at Springdale High School, which is 5 miles from Fayetteville. 1 state championship. Houston not hired him as offensive coordinator, then fired him. He ended up at Ole Miss, and he was brilliant. He ran all kinds of motion, everything. 2 years ago, he gave up the play call. He turned over the offense coordinator to another guy, and that is a mistake. Gus Malzahn, you're a great football coach. You're a great offensive genius. Take the offense back over and right that ship.
Well, Coach, I think he's going to right that ship this week because Liberty's coming down to the Plains. So we'll see how that's going to go. It's kind of the SEC warm-up week. We'll talk about that later. But ranked Fresno State went out to the Smurf Turf in Boise on Friday night. And everybody's saying Fresno, we're ranked, and Tedford's got these people 8-1, we're ready to go. Brett Ripien leads the Boise State in 24-17. Boise State wins again at home on a Friday night.
It was a close game, and we thought it would be a close game because Fresno State's defense was one of the best in their conference in the Mountain West and one of the top 25 in the country. But the key in this game is you've got to have great quarterback ability for 4 quarters. And Brett Ripien, in the end, he got it done. He became the Mountain West all-time passing leader in this game for a reason, because throughout his career, he's been terrific with the football. Doesn't turn the ball over, gets the ball to his receivers.
The game's tied. He hits a 49-yard touchdown pass. I was really impressed. You've been high on Ripien all year. He was outstanding in that football game. This is the best I've seen Boise State play in a long time. And what it does, by Boise State winning that game, Mark, is going to set up a tremendous game against Utah State. Yeah, Utah State is an outstanding football team, and that's going to determine who represents their Mountain Division or the Coastal Division. But it's just a big win for Boise State. Very, very impressive. And Fresno State under Jeff Tedford is really a very, very good football team. They had one other loss. That was to Minnesota, at Minnesota, early in the year by 7. They had the ball first out and goal to go on the 8th, and they run a halfback pass for an interception. That's how they end up losing the game. They're a good team.
Well, I'll tell you who else is a good team. And, Coach, we talked about UCF. That's been your team. You live in Orlando, right up the road. But I thought the stage was set on the 243rd birthday of the United States Marine Corps. 10 November, the Midshipmen of Navy, after getting whipped 45-0 the previous week against Cincinnati, they come into Orlando, and they're going to run the ball. And guess what? They did run the ball. They had 375 yards rushing. But guess what? What did Mackenzie Milton do? He found a way to win. He got it to the athletes. When he didn't get it to them, he did it himself. They went 35-24, which sets up a huge game this weekend in Orlando as Luke Fickell and the Bearcats come down. Talk to us about Navy UCF, Mark.
Well, this is a game both teams ran the ball very effectively. You know Navy's going to run the ball because they're one of the best in the country. They are each and every year under Ken Niumatalolo. But here's the key in this football game. You've got a quarterback like Milton that can run it and throw it and make good decisions. You're going to go far. That's why they've won 22 consecutive games. Coach, you've been high on this football team all season long. I'm not as high as you are. I don't think that they can play with the big boys, but it's up to you.
I'm not as high as I was before because their defense for the last couple of weeks, Mark, has not played very, very well. When I was in college, I had a guy on the swimming team was a fraternity brother. We'd get in an argument. He'd say, let's you and I go out in 10 feet of water and talk about this. Well, if Navy would have played him in the water, maybe that would have been a little bit different. But it was a win for UCF. Maybe they're looking ahead to Cincinnati and USF left on the schedule. I don't know. But they've won like 23 games in a row. That's impressive. I don't care who you're playing.
Well, we're going to talk more about UCF. But as we talked about, we had some teams that lost. You know what? Maybe they need a little coming up, a prescription from the doctor. So come back, stay tuned, and we'll be right back with a little medicine from Dr. Lou Holtz.
As we approach the end of the 2018 season, teams basically fall into two categories. One, a team that has a chance to accomplish something they can be proud of, a bowl game, a championship, etc. On the other hand, there's some teams whose only salvation to this season lies in ruining somebody else's hopes, dreams, and ambitions. For example, Kansas isn't going anywhere. They're going to have a losing record. They've lost their football coach, and they play Texas. They can't salvage anything except ruin Texas' dream of winning the Big 12 championship. Now, teams say, how did this happen? You know, in August, we had great dreams, hopes, ambitions, expectations. Well, just like people. When you're younger, you think you can conquer the world, and as you get older, you get a little bit discouraged, you get a little bit negative, and you lower your expectations. Your team can't turn it around, but you can turn your life around by changing the attitude. I think attitude is absolutely critical in everything that happens. You know, God gives you a lot of power. The power to love, think, create, imagine, plan. Greatest power is the power to choose. And the attitude you choose each and every day is absolutely critical. Decide what in the world you want to do in this world. Set some goals, some dreams, ambition. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a garbage collector. Why? I only worked on Tuesdays. But if you have goals, then you have to ask yourself these honest questions. What price am I willing to pay? Is the school willing to build better facilities, hire good coaches? Number two, what sacrifices do the players have to make? Number three, what skills and talents do the players have to acquire? Learn to block, tackle, and protect the football. Remember how important the football is? They even named the game after it. And then, of course, number four, what bad habits do you have to get rid of? Number five, who do you have to work with in order to get it done? See, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the person who believes if you want to do something, you will find a way. If you want to do it bad enough, you want to win, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find excuses. And excuses are a lot easier to find than solutions. And I leave it this thought. If you're having a great year, remember, if what you did yesterday looked good to you, you haven't done much today. And for both teams, winners and losers, my favorite saying, nothing's as good as it seems, and nothing's as bad as it seems. Somewhere in between there, reality falls. Season's not that great, season's not that bad. Let's be realistic. And be realistic, I expect to see you next week at the same time for your appointment. Have a great day.
Welcome back, and I hope you're going back to the Crowdsline app or the crowdsline.com contest and seeing, maybe you should have listened to Coach and Mark. Maybe you'd have won an Amazon gift card, but we'll get more into that. Before we go into our Week 12 games, let's talk about an award. Now, right now, we always hear, the Downtown Athletic Club sponsors the Heisman Trophy. And a lot of people say that right now, it's somebody's to lose, and his name is Tua. We know that. But what I want to ask our experts right here is, who other than Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama do you think still has a chance of the Heisman? Because there's a lot of football left. A lot of things can go different ways. Mark, I'm going to start with you.
I know somebody's going to talk about somebody from Notre Dame, so I won't even go down that road. But I think if you look at Oklahoma's quarterback, Kyler Murray, he's got to be in the conversation for sure. Gardner Minshew from Washington State, he's right up there, and he's the nation's leading passer right now. And I think another one is probably Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State. Nobody's really talking about him anymore. At the beginning of the season, had put up huge numbers. They still only have one loss, and he's got monster numbers on the season, so that's three guys that I'm looking at.
I agree with you on Murray and Haskins. They're both outstanding. The guy I would put in there is a guy named Damian Harris, a running back from Alabama. I mean, he is an outstanding football player. Tim Brown's the last receiver to ever win the game. But if you want to talk about a receiver, you look at Jerry Jeudy, who is an outstanding receiver, but I don't think they're really going to have a chance to do it. I think Eon Brooks had a tremendous year, but they have so many good athletes in Notre Dame, whether you're talking about Williams, the running back, or Boykin, the wide receiver, or Eon Brooks. But I do believe that Murray from Oklahoma is having an unbelievable year. He's having a better year than Mayfield did, and Mayfield won it last year. And let's remember this. He's on the sideline most of the time watching their defense on the field. If he had a great defense, he'd put even better stats.
Well, Coach, I'm not going to lie. I would love to see Richmond, Kentucky-born Damian Harris go up there. But I also have a question. If Gardner Minshew wins that, do they allow mustaches like that in the Downtown Athletic Club? Probably been since the 70s.
I haven't seen one.
I think. So, with that said, I digress on the mustache. Let's go into our Week 12 college football show contest. Like always, we've got 4 big games. And this first one is pretty big because it's number 24. Cincinnati is headed to Orlando, plays number 11 UCF, and it's pretty much the AAC East Championship. 2 different type of teams. You've got Cincinnati, Luke Fickell, kind of playing tough. Desmond Ritter's a quarterback from Louisville, Kentucky is where he grew up. But you know what? He's making things happen, and 63% passer, 15 touchdowns this year, 5 interceptions, that's it. But their defense is playing tough defense. Whereas UCF, I think they have pretty good defense, but their offense has athletes everywhere. Mackenzie Milton distributes the ball or he just keeps it himself, and they keep winning. Mark, who do you see winning this AAC East down there in Orlando?
I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to go right down the wire. It's not going to be a high-scoring affair because both defenses have played at such a high level all season long. I think the key in this game is going to be the offensive line for UCF and playing at home. If you look at this offensive line under Mackenzie Milton, they've only given up 6 sacks the entire season. I'm taking UCF 23-16.
Well, I have to go with UCF because, number one, they beat Pitt 45-14.
All right. That was early.
The amazing thing about UCF, they play 8 home games. They very seldom go on the road. They're an outstanding football team. And Luke Fickell, he's a guy that stood in as an interim coach, did not have great success at Ohio State to 1 year. He ended up being on Urban Meyer's staff. Last year, they had a disastrous year, his first year since then. Congratulations to him. He's done a tremendous job. Nevertheless, UCF rebuilds 35-27. I'm losing a little bit of enthusiasm about UCF because of their defense. Their defense got to start playing better like they did earlier in the year.
Well, as we know, Cincinnati shut out Navy. UCF gave up 24. But this next game in our Rapid 5, be honest, Mark, I didn't think we'd be talking about this late in the season, but you got to be pretty excited. The Panthers of Pitt are going down to Winston-Salem to play Wake Forest. No, by the way, if Pitt wins, it's a big if, but if Pitt wins, they're the AAC or the ACC Coastal Champion. They're going to go up there and play Clemson in Charlotte on December 1st, the same weekend that Pittsburgh's own Mark May is inducted into the 2018 class of ACC Legends. You can't write a book any better than that. So with that said, Mark, Pitt, Wake Forest.
Well, this is going to be an easy game. All they have to do is Pat Narducci listen to me. Run the football, plain and simple. You look at Kadri Ollison, over 1,000 yards rushing this year. Darren Hall, almost 900 yards rushing. Both running backs are averaging over 7 yards per carry. They put up over 250 yards against Virginia Tech's Bud Foster defense last week and 52 points. So they're getting it done offensively by running the football. It keeps your defense fresh and off the field. Pitt's going to win this game. It's going to be closer than people think. It's going to be 30-21. It's going to be a tough-fought victory, but they're going to get it done by running the football against Wake Forest.
You sound like a comedian out of work. Wake Forest has to win one of the last 2 games in order to be bowl eligible. They lost their quarterback, a freshman, going to be a great one, a young man by the name of Hartman, but they will find a way to win this game. And remember what I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot evaluate your football team the first 2 weeks of the season. Pitt lost to Penn State by a score of 51-6. They have bounced back. They've done a tremendous job. I give them all kind of credit. I do believe that the quarterback, Kenny Pickett, is a sophomore, has really done a nice job. But their ability to run the football has been very, very impressive. I look for Wake Forest to win this game 24-21, and mainly because it's home, plus they need this to become bowl eligible. Remember, 2 types of teams. Those going somewhere, those whose only salvation lies in ruining somebody else's dreams.
Well, I think we got a little bit of both in our 3rd game of the college football show contest, Coach, because you've got 8-1 West Virginia Mountaineers have a chance to win the Big 12, and God only knows what happens. They could find their way in the playoff if that happens. But then you've got 5-5 Oklahoma State down there in Stillwater. You know, they can do 2 things. One, they can be the spoiler, but 2, they want to get to a bowl game. It's the 10th meeting between these 2 that goes back to 1928, and Oklahoma State leads 5-4. But this is the key: is it's a Big 12 eliminator, so to speak. You've got Will Greer on one side, Taylor Cornelius on the other. You've got Dana Holgerson and what kind of hairdo and Red Bull he's got. You got the mullet and Mike Gundy on the other side. But the key is right now, I think only one of these teams plays decent defense, and that's West Virginia. A little bit better than Oklahoma State has played against. But Taylor Cornelius, as we saw, he can find a way to make some plays. Mark, what's going down in Stillwater?
West Virginia defense is going to pull this game out. Tony Gibson's done a spectacular job with this defense against Big 12 opponents. They're only giving up just over 20 points per game. And if you look at their linebacker, David Long Jr., he leads the team with sacks with 8, leads the team with tackles with 84. He's going to be instrumental in this football game. They're going to find a way to pull it out. They're still going to put points on the board because both teams have terrific offense, but West Virginia's still going to win the football game 47-38.
I can't figure out Oklahoma State. I mean, they're up, they're down. How does a team lose to Kansas State, who may not go to a bowl game this year, struggle with Kansas last week, and also lose to Baylor and get blown out by Texas Tech? I think that they're an excellent football team. I'm worried about West Virginia when they go on the road. They're not the same football team on the road as they are at home. I still believe, though, they are going to play hard. I think they're going to find a way to win. When you have Will Greer at quarterback, you've got Stills as a wide receiver, you have an excellent chance. I look for West Virginia to win this game 41-28.
Oh, 41-28, and Coach, as we know, this is in the Dana Holger scenario. You haven't seen many 8-1 West Virginia teams. They usually kind of trip up the end, but they get this. Oklahoma comes to Morgantown day after Thanksgiving.
Boy, will that be big, because understand this. If Texas wins out and West Virginia wins and Oklahoma wins, Texas, Oklahoma are going to play to see who's going to play in the championship game. If West Virginia wins, they will play Texas. If Oklahoma wins, they will play West Virginia again. So it's crazy. We'll talk about that next week.
Well,
Morgantown, hide your couches.
Hey, I'm from West Virginia. That's my home state. I was born there.
Well, I'm married into the Mountaineer family, so I'm not going to say anything else.
You can't claim West Virginia by marrying into it. We don't give citizenship that way.
Coach, I'm thankful for that. So, Arizona State is going to Oregon, and the Fighting Herm Edwards. How about that? About a year ago, they hire Herm Edwards, and everybody's saying, oh, he's too old, head coach. You know, they're 6-4, and they're playing Oregon, who's kind of in the tailspin, who's also 6-4. But more importantly, Arizona State still has a chance in the Pac-12 South.
Went out.
And this is the 37th meeting between these two. Last game was in 1966, and what's pretty interesting is the only person on the field that was around in 1966 is Herm Edwards. So what's going to happen? Justin Herbert, 25 touchdown passes, we've seen that. But Arizona State is buying into Herm Edwards. Mark, what do you think?
I think the key to this game is going to be the running attack with Eno Benjamin. This is a young player that's got over 1,200 yards on the ground, and nobody's really even mentioned his name in the Heisman discussion or anything like that. One thing about Arizona State is they're getting better on the road. Yes, they're 1-3 on the road with a 3-point victory at USC, but their other 3 losses have come by 7 points each game. So what Herm Edwards is able to do is make sure that they run the ball first. Manny Wilkins at quarterback can throw the ball vertically. He can also pull it down and run it. But the key is if you've got a good rushing attack and a solid running back, and your offensive line buys in like they had the last 3 or 4 games for Arizona State, you can travel with a good running game and be competitive with anybody, even at Alton Stadium. And I've got Arizona State pulling out a close one in this game, 29-26.
I congratulate Herm Edwards and Arizona State, but I also congratulate the athletic director, because he said to Norm Edwards, we have a great defense coordinator, we have a great offense coordinator. I need you as a head coach to motivate people, set a direction, and he has done that outstanding. But the coordinator received an awful lot of credit. They have won 3 games in a row. Oregon has not played anybody non-conference. That's the thing I worry about. However, they do have very good quarterback in Justin Herbert. They have an outstanding wide receiver in Dylan Mitchell. He's had over 1,000 yards in reception. The game's at Oregon. I look for Oregon to prevail, 34-28.
Well, 34-28, Coach, and I think a whole lot of other athletic directors could follow suit. You know what? We need a head football coach, not a coordinator, not a coach that wants to be the coordinator, a head football coach. Set the culture, set the tone, make it happen, and you're seeing the result right there. But our next game, I think when this was scheduled, or even earlier in the season, I don't think I think this was kind of looked at, hey, a warm-up game, much like, you know, the SEC's doing this week. You got number 3 Notre Dame playing number 12 Syracuse in Yankee Stadium, New York City, and Coach, as we know, it'd probably be a Notre Dame home game because they're everywhere, and especially New York City. But this is the 9th meeting between these two. Goes back to 1926, but they only played 1 time in Yankee Stadium, and that was in 1963 when Syracuse, coached by West Virginia-born Ben Schwartzwelder, beat the Irish 14-7. But that's not the same Irish, and it's maybe not the same Syracuse Orangemen. We saw what happened last week. Ian Book's back now. He's healthy. He's better. He's going to play. And, you know, Eric Dungy, has some things up his sleeves as well. Mark.
And the good thing about Syracuse with Eric Dungy, whether he throws the ball or runs the ball, he's extremely effective for their offense. You look at this Syracuse football team, they've won their last 4 games by scoring at least 40 points or more since their loss at Pittsburgh. This team has really turned it around this year. They're going in the right direction. And don't worry about the team from Notre Dame having fans there. Syracuse is only a 2.5-hour drive away. Their fans will come down to this game. It's a once-in-a-lifetime game and an opportunity to play an undefeated Notre Dame team and beat them in Yankee Stadium 34-31.
Figures don't lie, but liars figure. Let's look at this Syracuse football team. Now, hey, done a tremendous job there. The coach used to be at Bowling Green. I give you an awful lot of credit. Dungy, the quarterback. But Dungy has not finished the last 3 games of the season for the past 2 years. I hope he can finish this game. But Syracuse is vastly overrated, and I don't mean to put you down. But let's look who you beat non-conference. You beat Connecticut, who's 1-9. You beat Wagner. Wow, that's impressive. Let's look at your conference wins. You have beaten teams in the conference that have won a total, I think, of 6 games and lost 26. How about North Carolina? 0-8 in the conference. How about Louisville, 1-7? The best team they've beaten has been Wake Forest, who's 2-4. Oh, excuse me. They beat Virginia Tech, who's 3-3. They haven't been challenged. They haven't played anybody. They don't know what it's like. They play Notre Dame. Notre Dame is on the roll. Notre Dame's on a mission. Notre Dame 41, Syracuse 17 in a mop-up roll.
Notre Dame, let me see. They played Wake Forest, and it was a close game. And they played Ball State and almost lost that game. They played Northwestern, almost lost that game.
Well, they did. They won every one of the point I made. They beat Michigan.
That was what Michigan had. That was at the beginning of the season when you had.
Don't confuse me with facts, Mark. The fact is that Syracuse has not been challenged. They will be on Saturday. They're going to find out how fast this game can be.
Well, Coach, 41-17. So what I'm doing right now, and you see it, the reason is because Syracuse gave up 400 yards to the Louisville Cardinals, even though they didn't score many. But I'm going into the Crowds Line app right now. I signed up, and I just picked it. Look at that, Coach. 41-17, Notre Dame over Syracuse because Coach Lou Holtz said so.
It's nice for me to be able to voice my opinion here because I've been married 57 years, so I don't get a chance to do it a lot at home. So it's great to be on TV.
Well, gentlemen, there you have it. That was our Week 12 College Football Show contest. And what we're going to move on in to our Week 12 Rapid 5 contest. And 5 games, they have some implications, but they also could be considered trap games. So we're going to start off. Number 2 is first game. Duke is at number 2 Clemson. And Duke is 7-3, and correct me if I'm wrong, for David Cutcliffe down there in Durham.
They're bowling.
You keep going 7-3, they'll build a statue after you down there in Durham. But Clemson is 10-0, and they are on a mission. They're running the ball. Travis Etienne, we see what's going on there. That defense is suffocating. Vegas has it as a 28.5 point spread. Clemson, I'm not so sure. Mark, what do you think about this?
I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that. I think the reason why is because I think Clemson right now, they know that they can run the ball on anyone. They know they can throw the ball on anyone. The top 5 total scoring defense in the country at over 45 points a game, and the number 1 scoring defense in the nation, 13 points per game. So if you've got teams like that, you know exactly what you can do with a lot of NFL talent, and Duke just doesn't have that talent. Duke will fight them hard, and they'll put a couple points on the board, but I still have Clemson winning out easy, 38-17.
Well, Clemson's a complete football team. You talk about offense. Why are they good on defense? They're great against the run and the pass. They're great on third down defense. They're great on goal line defense, but do not underestimate a young man by the name of Daniel Jones, a quarterback for Duke. Last week, he threw for 320 yards, rushed for 150, had 547 yards total offense by himself, which is a Duke record. That will not happen against this Clemson team. He will be a marked man come Saturday. I look for Clemson to win the game 38-17.
Well, 38-17 there. Put that in your contest. There's another one. Number 16, Iowa State. Matt Campbell and the Cyclones are going to Austin to play number 15 Texas Longhorns. 6-3 Iowa State, 5-2 Texas, but they both have 2 losses in the conference. And as Coach was talking before, neither one of them is out of it. And Iowa State, as we saw, call them giant killers. And we know Matt Campbell's one of those coaches whose phone, if it's not right now, it's getting ready to start ringing from some other big jobs right now. But they're on a roll. They got a freshman quarterback named Brock Purdy, and you saw what they did at home to West Virginia. Let's see what they do on the road down there in Austin. Mark.
And Brock Purdy, for the years, completed almost 70% of his passes, 13 touchdowns and just 2 picks. He's only played 5 games this year. He's a quarterback that's getting better each and every game. He's getting more mature and more seasoned each game. But if you look at this defense for Iowa State, they've only given up 14 points or more once in their last 4 games. So on both sides of the ball, they're very competitive. I've got Iowa State winning this game over Texas, 27-23.
I think it's going to be a great game. And let's give all the credit to Iowa State. They're playing so well on offense, defense. Since they've went to Brock Purdy, they have been outstanding. Texas, however, is 9 points away from being undefeated. You know, they have been lost a couple very, very close games. I think that Sam Erlinger is doing a tremendous job there. They have excellent receivers. Little Jordan Humphrey is very, very explosive. I think Texas at home will find a way to win the game. That stadium will be rocking. It's a way Texas used to be.
Well, Mark, 27-23, I got the Cyclones. I put it in the contest, so I might win the gift card if I do it.
Texas 31-24.
Well, that's good, Coach, but I picked this score this time. But if I win, I'll take you on lunch.
All that tells me you don't care whether you win or not. You're just doing it. That's okay. If you want to lose, that's up to you.
Well, our third game of the Rapid Five is, and this is another team that we weren't thinking about, especially a couple weeks ago, but Kevin Sumlin and the Arizona Wildcats they're on a roll. They won their last 2, and they're taking on Mike Leach and the number 8 Washington State Cougars, who are 9-1 right now. Obviously, Pac-12 North, they're going to win this game. Then they go play the Apple Cup for the Pac-12 North Championship. But Arizona is not out of it down in the South. And Khalil Tate, remember we talked about run. But guess what? Khalil Tate, he's starting to throw the ball a little bit. You know, they've won 2 in a row. They beat Colorado. They beat Oregon pretty handily. So ball control on Washington State, if you look how many, they can control the ball. Even though they're a pass-happy offense, they stay on the field. How's that going to go? What do you think, Mark?
Well, if you look at this game, J.J. Taylor, the running backs, rushed for over 1,200 yards for Arizona, and that's one of the keys. That's why Khalil Tate hasn't rushed the ball this year. Last year, he was Pac-12 player like 5 times, and that's unheard of in the Pac-12. So they're not having him run the ball as effectively. They might start having him run the ball more against Washington State, but it's not going to matter. Gardner Minshew, their quarterback, will be throwing the ball all over. He'll be spinning the magic pill. But I think this game's going to come down to them not only throwing the ball, but also running the ball. Washington State doesn't do a lot of it, but when they have to, they run the ball and play sound defense. I've got Washington State winning this game 38-31. Mike Leach and Kevin Sumlin, let's not forget, they go way back in the Big 12 coaching against one another.
Oh, it should be interesting. But let's look at this. Arizona's 4-3 in the conference, which tells you how weak that division is.
The South, yeah.
That they're 4-3, and they still have a chance to win their division. I look for Washington State. I think they're an excellent football team. But here's what's interesting. If Arizona doesn't win this game, they then play at home next week against Arizona State, and they got to beat Arizona State to go to bowl. To go to bowl, they got to win this game or one next week. I look at Washington State. I think they're an outstanding football team. I look for the Washington State team to determine the outcome of the Northern Division next week. Washington State, whether they win or lose this game, will come down whether they're going to win their division or be next week. This game's irrelevant. Nevertheless, Washington State wins 42-33.
Well, 42-33, my money's on the mustache up there. We'll see how that's going to go. But let's talk about our 4th game. In our 4th game, there's a lot of emotion in this one. You got number 10 Ohio State's going to Maryland. And Ohio State's had they're 9-1. You know, they lost that tough game to Purdue. But everything from the social media going on and Twitter, the words and look on people's faces, you know, see how it's going to go. But then you take Maryland. You know, talk about a coach of the year. They're 5-5, 1 game from a bowl game after everything that they went through. The death of Jordan McNair, the firing of the coach, the retirement of the AD, the president, across the board. And they are 5-5 and have a chance at a bowl game.
No, they don't.
Well, I know, Coach.
They got to play Ohio State and Penn State in their last 2 games. That's nice for you to encourage.
It was a good story.
Come on now. Here's the thing. But tell us, is it a blowout or is it going to be, Ohio State hadn't? No.
Well, Ohio State's been trying to run the ball more effectively the last few weeks with J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber, and they have done that. I think when you run the ball that effectively, it keeps the score lower. And if you look at Maryland, they're number 18th rushing attack in the nation. They're going to run the ball, so that's going to take a lot of time off the clock. But it doesn't matter. Ohio State just has too many horses in their stable. They're going to win this game against Maryland, 36-20. I don't think it's going to be close. Maryland will score a touchdown at the end of the game, and oh, by the way, it doesn't matter. The game's going to be over.
I think that Maryland's had a fine year, but they have to beat Ohio State and Penn State, and that's a little bit difficult. However, I think Ohio State, what concerns me that they might be looking ahead to Michigan next week because it's such a big game. But knowing Urban Meyer, he's an outstanding coach, great leader, I think they will find a way to win this football game. Ohio State 36, Maryland 7, and you better get ready for Penn State, Maryland.
Well, that's closer because the average score of the last 4 games, Ohio State beat them 56-17. Our 5th and final game in the Rapid 5, and you talk about history, and it's just known as the game. This is the 135th meeting between Yale and Harvard. Now, depending on where you graduated, one will say, oh, it's Harvard-Yale, but Yale and Harvard. They're playing Saturday in Fenway Park in the shadow of the Green Monster. And this is, I read up, this is a 50th anniversary of the infamous 1968 29-29 tie. But either way, both teams are 5-4. You know, this is the last game of the season. This is all about bragging rights. No ugly trophy, none of this. It's about bragging rights. Pretty excited to see who's going to win this one. Mark.
Running back Aaron Shamplin for Harvard is averaging over 110 yards rushing per game. He's going to get it done. He's got over 1,000 yards already on the season. Harvard's defense has only given up 20 points per game. They've won their last 2 games. They're on a roll. Harvard wins this game, Coach. That's right, Harvard, 22-16.
Well, I wish I could say I could cheer for my alma mater in this game. I'm sorry I couldn't get in school there. But I remember in 68, I'm coaching Ohio State. We won the national championship, and Yale played Harvard and tied at 29-all. But it was a great comeback. They were behind like 29-0. And the headline of the paper said, Yale beats Harvard 29-29. I look for Harvard to win this football game 28-24. But boy, I tell you, this game has great excitement. It's like the Army-Navy game. This is a mental game. Army-Navy's a great patriotic game.
A lot of deep pockets in this stadium.
Oh, big time.
Yes, there are. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to the son of friends of mine, Tate Goodyear, a freshman defensive lineman for Yale. He gets his first experience, and probably no better experience than being right there in the shadow of the Green Monster. Well, there you have our college football show contest and our Week 12 Rapid 5 contest. So get on the app just like I did, pick the winners, and we're going to be back with you here in just a second. Stay tuned. What we're going to talk about now is our Week 11 winners. We already picked the winners for Week 12, but some of you that got on the contest won big. So I'm going to lead off. Coach, who was our Week 11 college football show contest winners?
Well, number 3 is Elliot, N-G-I-T. I won't even try to pronounce it. I can't pronounce my children's name. You get a $50 Amazon gift card. Card number 2, Thomas Bonado. You get $75. And, of course, the big winner is Josh Shepard. $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations, all 3 of you.
My Amazon gift cards. Number 3, Craig James gets a $50 Amazon gift card. Number 2, Jeff Long. Not the Jeff Long, I don't think that's the Kansas AD and the former Pitt and Arkansas AD, but Jeff Long gets a $75 Amazon gift card. And number 1, William Holiday gets a $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to all.
Well, those guys are winning. I tell you who else is winning is our Atta-Boys. And, Coach, I'm going to start with you. Who's your Atta-Boys for Week 11?
Well, my Atta-Boys, it could be, you could start with a couple people. Number 1, I'd go with Daniel Jones, the quarterback at Duke. He did a tremendous job. Threw for 312 yards, 3 touchdowns, but ran for 157 yards, 12-yard average, had 574 yards total offense, our Duke record. The other one I'd have to go is Erlinger, the quarterback at Texas. He threw for 4 touchdowns as he led them to a big win.
Well, my attaboy, how about Lil Jordan Humphreys? 1 for 8, 159, the Texas wide receiver. Terrific job by that wide receiver. And had the game-winning touchdown at the end of the game. Congratulations. And number 2, Kenny Willekes. How about the defensive end for Michigan State? 13 tackles, 4 solo tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 quarterback hurry, 1 pass defended. They still lost the game, but in this game, if you watch this young man play, because I was mesmerized by watching this kid play, because he was a one-man wrecking crew in the game. And if they didn't lose the game because of that young man, he gets my attaboy.
And if he hadn't showed up, they would have still lost.
By a lot more.
But they lost.
Well, keep it close and never let the truth get in the way of a good story, I like to say. But I want to go into something else. Coach and Mark. Right now, a lot of things going on this weekend, but we had 3 new job openings. We talked about Kansas, that's open. Maryland, we know that's open. And now the University of Louisville football job, that's open. Is that a done deal? I don't know. I don't think so. But I'm going to ask you first, Coach. You got those 3 jobs. And, okay, which is the best job that you see? But more importantly, when you go take over, because they didn't lose the coach because the coach went on to a bigger and better job. Well, they left the coach because they're down.
Well, first thing, hire me because this is my get-back coach. He's my get-back. But we're talking about what coaching vacancies and markets on TV. You give him that speech about come do. Here's what. A good job does not open up. I remember Urban Meyer wanted the Bowling Green job. I helped him get it. He called me and said, I'm going to go take it. I said, why that? He said, it's not a good job. I said, it's not. Good jobs don't open up. You take a good job, and a bad job, and you make it a good job. Every job is potentially a great job. I kid you not. It's all about leadership. You can win at Kansas. You can win at Louisville. They proved it. You can do anything if you hire the right guy with the right leadership, and he has a plan. You can name him the coach. You can't name him the leader. He's a leader if he has a vision where he wants to go, a plan how you're going to get there, a plan how we're going to recruit. When I go to a school like Minnesota, my plan was we can't recruit the great athlete, so let's recruit the guy to project him, the 6'2", 190-pound safety man, 4'7". Not a big-time player. But if we take him, put him in the weight room, all of a sudden he's a defensive end at 250 at 4'7". That's what you have to do in any job you go. But there's never a bad job.
I think the key is you've got to have support if you want a winning program. If you look at all the successful programs that have the duration, that continue to win year after year, they've got great athletic directors, great alumni, they've got a great fan base, and they've got a great student section, and they're going to help your team win and carry it out, and they've got the support of the community. And I think if you've got the support of those people, you've got a great chance to win anywhere.
I tell you what really bothers me is athletic directors don't want to make a decision, don't want to do the research. They go to these search firms. Yeah. Then they put all the responsibility on the search firm. Yep. Give them your search firm speak. Hey, you don't have to pay $150,000. You come to me. $10,000, I'll get you a coach.
Yeah, the other thing is these athletic directors, when they hire a guy, it's like, yeah, it's a great hire. We got our guy. Then when they got to fire him 3 years later, it's like, oh, that's the research company. That's the guys that we hired to bring the guy, and it wasn't me. Stand up, and if you're going to hire a guy, fire a guy.
Well, I think as we're going to see by the top 10 and the top 5 and the top 4 as we get to the end of the season here, I think culture and process are, in the long run, have more to do with it than, oh, here's a fancy playbook. We're going to bring this coach in because of his playbook. But, you know, one of the things we talked about, Coach, you know, the Waffle House menu playbook they walk around with. Well, if you're a head coach and your sole focus is one side of the football, how much time are you not spending on defense? You're not spending on special teams. Okay. You're not spending on recruiting.
But if you're a head football coach, it's my firm belief, you must be able to coach every single position, every kickoff return, punt return, kick, etc. You better be able to coach defensive line, secondary, offense. You must be able to coach everything. That's one thing that I did. I learned, I prepared, learned that from one day, because then and only then do you know when your assistants are not doing the things that needed to be done.
The thing that I always thought about when I was a player is when the head coach knew your name, because usually when they're out there, it's like, hey, 73, hey, 43. When the head coach comes up and says, hey, Mark, that was a good block, so all of a sudden you turn around and say, yeah, the head coach, he knows my name, because usually you're always with your position coach. That's where you spend 99% of your time.
Your name's easy, but try Brendan Noskovich. That's a little bit harder.
I'm sure they had quite a few of those in Pitt. Hey, gentlemen, so coming up on week 12, what I want to know is, what are you looking forward to? Mark, and I'm going to start with you. What do you look forward to this weekend as we start getting ready for Thanksgiving weekend? Because rivalry week is next week.
Yeah, how many teams can continue to focus this weekend and play their best football leading into rivalry week? Because that's those big games at the end of the season where you've got Alabama playing Auburn and teams like that. So I think the key is when teams come in and play this game, how many starters are going to play? Because Alabama's playing the Citadel. So do you expect Tua to play more than 2 quarters? I don't. I think he's going to be on the sidelines after the first quarter. So how's the rest of the team going to prepare? The one thing about Alabama, all those secondary players and third-team players, they got a lot of experience this year.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. But when you're getting ready to play a big rivalry, you're going to play a team that isn't particularly good, particularly in the SEC. You look at who Auburn's played. You look who South Carolina's played. You look all the way down the line. Just don't get stubbed your toe this week. Next week, I think, is going to be exciting. What I'm really looking forward to, there's some real critical games. I think Texas, Iowa State, I have no idea what's going to happen. I think that'll be a great game. We always have some good games. But last week, I thought the best game I saw all week was Boise State versus Fresno State. It was a great game. There'll be great games on TV. I hope we'll be here next week to talk about it.
Well, I hope we get up there, maybe go to Orlando and check out the Cincinnati UCF. I'm most looking forward to, though, the Center College Frank Colonels at 9-1 and Coach Andy Fry. They are in the Division III college football playoffs, and at noon Saturday, they take on Washington and Jefferson.
I predicted that early in the year. Go back and get the date. Center has a great tradition of football. Not many people know this. There's one college football team that won the national championship on the top level in college football from the state of Kentucky, 1921. Center College did it. They have a great tradition, a big game. I'm sure the stands are going to be packed. I look for Center to win, and not only that, I think they have an excellent chance to make the playoff, and I say that sincerely.
Coach, all I got to do is ask you, at that game in 1921, what was the weather like?
Oh, I tell you what. Hey, Mark, we can go in that. When you want to talk about the 12th man and at Texas A&M, that started against Center College. We can go on and on, but the show's not long enough. Center College have a great year. They'll make the playoff. You heard it here first.
Hey, go Colonels. And that's our show for week 12. It's been wonderful. Gentlemen, we're going to do this more often. Coach, you need to come Palm Springs more often and bring Mark and I with you. We like that.
They invited me here to speak. That's why I'm here. And it's always great to be with you.
So it's good to meet you. I just follow the money. I follow you.
Always great.
Go to thecrowdsign.com. Go to our app. Compete in the contest. Have a great weekend, and God bless. Thank you.
From the 30, Johnson out of the shotgun. Dropping back, pressure on, throwing over the middle. Has Williams. 10, 5, touchdown!